see one waving. Beautiful. We want media covering our presidential debate. Thank you guys for being here bright and early at 9 a.m. Big thanks to C-SPAN. Super awesome that they're here covering our presidential debate, which you are all making your way to your seats for. Let's do it. Credentials will continue their jobs. Our hard-working Credentials Committee. Let's go, let's go. The Alabama delegation. Looks like they're all seated and ready for the debate. Props to Alabama. Tennessee, where are you? California, the second half of Tennessee is in their seats. Beautiful. California is somewhat in their seats. I'd love to see it. Tennessee Chair Josiah Baker ushering people to their seats. Presidential candidates. I'm going to get loud on this thing because you are all still very loud in this room. You are cheerful and boisterous and ready for a debate, but you must find your way to your seats. And our candidates must find their way to the stage. I love it. I love to see it. Look at this. Look at these beautiful faces. If I can get some quiet in the room, I'd like to introduce our moderator. But we want to be quiet and be respectful of these men who've worked so hard for so many months, some of them over a year, and you're all still chattering away. Chatter, 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 chatter. See how annoying that is? So awful. It's just because you're so excited, right? You know what's exciting? Starting. So awesome. Starting. We love to debate and argue. We have the ultimate debate me bro culture. It is amazing. I embrace it. I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. Are you all ready? Fantastic. We have some beautiful faces up here. We've got Mike Termott. We've got Joshua Smith. We've got Michael Rechtenwald. We've got Chase Oliver. We've got Charles Ballet. And we've got Lars Mapstead. I believe we've got an hour and a half set aside for this debate. I'm not sure if you all, some of you I know, caught a recent debate between Laura Loomer and Dave Smith on Israel. It was a very hot debate. It was very well moderated by Liam Cosgrove, a reporter from the Gray Zone, and we are very happy and excited to welcome him to moderate our presidential debate. Liam, welcome to the stage. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. I did not moderate that debate with Laura Loomer and Dave Smith, but thank you nonetheless. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. I've always been a libertarian, so I love the energy in here. Yeah, let's just get into it. Let's not waste any time. So my first question for you guys tonight: who is your least favorite founding father? Let's start with Michael. Your least favorite founding father.
Least favorite founding father is definitely Hamilton.
How come? Just briefly say why.
Well, he was a central government fanatic who wanted to institute the central government, the federal government over us, and this abrogated the sovereignty of the states that was supposed to be the constitutional arrangement of the United States. So, big government, centralization, all our enemies. Thank you.
Joshua?
Probably Alexander Hamilton. As well, listen, I'm a staunch anti-federalist. If we could get rid of the federal government today, that'd be the best bet. Thank you.
Yeah, let's just keep going down the line this way, and then we'll come to Chase.
My turn?
Yeah.
Franklin Roosevelt, who thought he was founding a brand new damn country, and we're not going to stand for it. The idea of imposing on us what he thought was a New Deal was completely unacceptable. It changed the United States in a very, very profoundly bad way. We need to reverse that, impose a new relationship between us and government on the government. We should not be tolerating what someone thinks is a good idea, a good New Deal along the way.
Okay. That's not a founding father, but it's all going to be Hamilton if we don't switch it up. So go for it.
So we've already had two people beat on the statist, Alexander Hamilton, but I feel like spreading the wealth around. So I'm going to pick John Adams, our second president, the guy who got the power the second time. The first thing he did was pass the Alien and Sedition Act. That made it a crime to criticize your government. Who would be guilty if we had the crime to criticize our government this whole way? I know I would be. We fight for free speech in this party, and that's what we're going to stand up for. And anybody who fights against it, they have the libertarians coming right at it.
Oddly enough, I would agree with Mike. Hamilton, Federalist Papers. I'm a statesman. I believe in states' rights. I'm more Jeffersonian. I think the federal government has taken hold of our lives. It's far too pervasive in this day and age, and it needs to be brought under some control. You know, we had a balance back in those days where people would argue and say we need states' rights as opposed to federal rights. And Hamilton was a federalist. So I actually agree with Mike on this one.
So I would take any of our founding fathers over anybody that we have in Congress right now, because they were all for limiting our government way more than the giant bureaucratic state that we have morphed into. They would all be rolling over in their graves right now if they knew what was going on in this cesspool of a city that we are in right now.
Thomas Mass is better than someone Johnny Father.
Okay, fair enough. Now we're going to switch to incremental incrementalism versus radicalism, that's often a debate internally here at the Libertarian Party. I'm going to refer to what Clint Russell said yesterday with Vivek, where he said, why not just abolish the FBI, the CIA, and put nothing in its place? To you guys, would you do that? And name, please, which 3-letter agencies you would abolish in your first term, and to make it the list as long as you want. Let's start with Lars and come down this way.
So, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, which do you agree with, Clint Russell saying abolish things like the FBI, CIA, replace them with nothing, and then name additional ones that you would abolish and never replace?
Yeah, so for me, the top of the list is the Federal Reserve. We got to get rid of this thing. It is stealing your money each and every day. It is stealing every American's dollars out of their pocket by devaluing the currency that are in your pocket. They're reducing your standard of living. Their built-in mandate is to rob you every single day. Unlike taxes, it's hidden. We don't know about it. We got to get rid of the Federal Reserve. We got to get rid of the corrupt IRS that goes and makes criminals out of people. Criminals out of people for not filing their paperwork on time. It makes you waste all your time and energy complying, and if you don't comply, they throw you in jail. I'm sick and tired of the government stealing our money and then using it to drop bombs on kids in faraway lands. I want to abolish the NSA, the security state, the FBI, the CIA. Look, I want to abolish all the alphabet agencies because they all suck. I would love to wave a magic wand and make them all go away, but that's not how it works. And so we have to actually have a plan to get rid of these things. And that is what my campaign is all about, planning to get rid of the state. I want to reduce the state to as close to zero as possible, and if we have no state, I'm totally happy with that as well.
Sure. So my stance on this is very similar to many of our candidates up here, is that I believe many of these organizations need to be brought to light and their attacks on our liberties dismantled. We have innumerable organizations throughout this country right now that infringe upon our liberties. We have basically schools that aren't functioning properly. We have a medical center or careers that are just plagued with bureaucracy. We have an IRS that you can't contact should you have questions and problems. So yes, I think all of these organizations, need to be made smaller. I mean, think about it. If you have a tax problem, you can't call the IRS and somehow get some sort of answer. You have to wait for a letter for 6 months. If you want to do things with your children that may be outside of the norm for education, you have to go back and you have to, figure out ways to be able to navigate a system that's plagued with inadequacies. Our children are growing up being basically they're being brainwashed into this woke society right now, and it's not right. There's something that is vehemently wrong about the government. A one-size-fits-all from Washington, D.C., come down to state Louisiana and say, our children need to be taught these values, not your values. These things need to be changed. Yes, there are innumerable organizations. The IRS, right? The Fed, right? Why can't we fix the Department of Education? Our founding fathers would be viscerally just upset right now to see what this country has become. And we need people that are willing to stand up, but at the same time, we damn well need people to be able to reach across the aisle and work with other people. Because if we think that just this small group of people in this room are going to change things in this world, it's not going to happen. We need to have a voice, make progress, we need to win elections, and we need to do good for this country.
So I noticed you said fix the Department of Education, so that is not an abolish.
No, so I personally think that there should be some standards. So when anyone's children out here get out and decide that they're, say, 15, 16, hear me out, right? Hear me out. I think reading, writing, arithmetic, right? I don't think your children should be, I think there needs to be alternate pathways to education. You should be able to train your child. You should be able to choose what it is you want your children to do.
Good job.
I got started as a political activist fighting against the federal government. The federal government I was fighting against was the war machine. The war machine that exports death and destruction all over the world, kills innocent people all over the world with our tax dollars and names. But the truth is that the war machine does not just exists overseas. The war machine exists here at home. There are all kinds of federal agencies that ruin your privacy, that attack your inherent rights, and those are the agencies we need to get rid of. Starting with the entire DHS department, all together needs to be eliminated. The personnel state needs to be dismantled piece by piece, and then we tear down the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, and every other federal agency that has invaded our lives, invaded our privacy, bring our governance back to ourselves. Self-government is the greatest local government, and if you're not committing force, fraud, coercion, and theft, your life is your life, not the government's, and get the hell out of it.
Real quick, what about the DoD?
So I believe that we need to have a military to defend ourselves, but it doesn't need to be exporting its death and destruction all over the world. Our military footprint should not be anywhere but in the United States of America to protect us from sovereign invasion. And let me tell you right now, no one would ever do that. Why? Because we also have a well-armed citizen population. If they bring war on our shores, we'll bring it right to them. But nowhere else will we export more death around the world.
Well, I'm so glad that over the course of this campaign, I have moved the Overton window amongst these libertarian candidates for president towards anti-statism. I was the first to say that the state is a parasite. I want us to make clear, I'll preface this by saying, I am running to restore the Libertarian Party to the radical vision of David Nolan, Murray Rothbard, and Harry Brown. I'm not running to reform the state, I'm running to dismantle it. I call for an obvious, immediate end to the Federal Reserve, the CIA, the military-industrial complex, the NSA spying, and the crushing regulatory regime. So that is all the alphabet agencies plus. So this is not a campaign about tweaking the central government, riding into Washington like a white knight to fix things. This is a campaign to dismantle the state. Let's go.
Abolish, right? I mean, that's the truth of the matter. Of course we want to abolish all the three-letter agencies. Of course we agree with Clint Russell, who's a very smart man. I love him to death. But there's also some gray area here. The president doesn't actually have the power to go in and abolish all these agencies. And what we need to do is have a plan. It's very important that we have a plan. We go in, we have to, on day one, start laying off 75% of the workforce in the federal agencies. That's how we're going to start to abolish these things. These people have been oppressing the middle class in America for far too long. The administrative state has grown out of control. They're out there infiltrating Catholic groups with the FBI. They're going to soccer moms and calling them domestic terrorists for being worried about their children's health care. It's grown so big, they were supposed to go after interstate serial killers and interstate sex traffickers. So we have to go in, we have to lay off 75% of the workforce. We have to start moving people to maintenance departments around the country. Whatever's left can go after what they were intended to go after. But of course we want to abolish these agencies. Of course these agencies are absolutely detrimental to a free America. My intention is to go into Washington with my baseball bat and start tearing them down on day one. My elbow will be absolutely sore. Thank you very much.
My fellow libertarians, there is absolutely no reason you should tolerate an agency, I don't care how many letters it has. If it changes from 3 letters to 2 letters or 4 letters, you're going to put up with that bullshit? I don't think so. Look, we should not be up here talking about how it is that we're going to reform the Department of Education. If you can't figure out how to raise your children, are you really going to look to Washington to help guide you through that process? We should not be in the business of talking about even how to reform the Defense Department. The Defense Department makes decisions like invading Afghanistan and invading Iraq, and let this sink in, spending not billions but trillions of dollars, not costing thousands of lives but over 1 million. Does that sound like a decision that you would make? Does that sound like a decision that your fellow Americans would make? Does that sound like a decision that you could find anybody in your neighborhood to go along with? There is no reason that you should tolerate a government that makes decisions that are absolutely counter to your values and to your interests. Not only should we sunset every single one of these agencies, except for the Department of Defense, we should be sunsetting the Department of Defense. The reason for this is because it needs to be reconstituted. If you believe, as many libertarians apparently do, that we need a Defense Department to protect our border, it has to start from scratch. It cannot start with the Defense Department that we have today. And the same needs to be said for each of the other agencies. It might be true in some alternative universe, and I know how, to reform the FBI. But I gotta tell you, as someone who has spent decades in and around watching the FBI, it's not worth it. There is nothing there worth saving. You need to end it. You need to end it and start from scratch. And one more thing. If someone tells you that they can reform monetary policy without ending the Federal Reserve System, they are not an economist, or else I'm not, and I damn well am.
And the Fed! And the Fed! And the Fed! And the Fed! And the Fed!
All right, so here's another topic that is pretty hotly debated, probably in this room, and that's immigration. There are the old open borders libertarians, and there's today's bordertarians, I've heard them called, the Dave Smith camp, we gotta, protect the southern border. So if you guys could give me an answer for your immigration policy. Are you an open borders libertarian? Let's start with Chase.
So I'm a libertarian who supports the 21st century Ellis Island model. I want people to come through our ports of entry, declare who they are, and come right on in and let the free market do its work. We can determine where our labor comes and goes with the free movement of people. That doesn't mean you don't have enforcement along the border. That doesn't mean you don't protect people from human trafficking, sex trafficking, these kinds of crimes. But it means that 99.9% of people who are stuck in the process right now can get through the process, get to work, start producing economic activity, and actually bring a benefit to this country and not stuck behind charity or welfare. That's what we need in this country. Actually, toward the border, I spoke to business owners who said, I would desperately like to hire some of these immigrants, but they're prevented to because of the process, and now they're stuck with charity and welfare that's coming out of the taxpayers' dollars. That doesn't sound like a good deal for us. It doesn't sound like a good deal for the immigrants. It doesn't sound like a good deal for the market. So let people come on through, let people work as they want to, and of course, with seasonal labor, where I come from in Georgia, agriculture is our largest industry. Let these people come and work during the time that we need planting and harvesting, take their money back home instead of staying stuck here on welfare programs. That is a true immigration policy that supports the free movement of people. The free movement of people, goods, and capital is a libertarian idea. And I would stand up and fight against the statists and those who say that we can't have a sensible immigration policy in this country.
So yes or no, open borders or not?
A border that allows anybody to
Yes or no, open borders or not?
Do you want to build a wall? I don't want to build a wall.
I don't want to build a wall, but it sounds like you want an open border. Which is it? Yes or
A
no?
border where people who are peaceful can freely move.
Is that a
Yes.
yes?
Yes, in line with our plank of our party. Yes, I support the free movement of people, goods, and capital.
Let's define open borders. So basically, open borders would be someone shows up to the facility, they get an ID, we fingerprint them or whatever, and then they're free to go.
Yes, so long as they're not wanted for a crime that requires us to exercise extradition. If they are, and they feel they're a political prisoner, that's when you apply for asylum. Right now, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of people applying for asylum because it's the only way they know how. If we simplify the process, you wouldn't have this gunk up in the courts, and you would have free movement of labor. Most immigrants in this country are peaceful people. 40% of the people in this country can identify a relative that came through Ellis Island. This country was built by immigrants. We need to facilitate that and let the free market be free.
Let's go down the line this way.
Sure, so I'm a states' right guy, and I think that states should have a right to determine who it is that they want in their states. But where I believe in libertarianism is that You know, I've treated a lot of persons from across this world, and a lot of persons that came up from Central America, and these are good people, and I agree wholeheartedly. Most of the persons that are coming into this country are not bad individuals. We just happen to have a system right now where social services are just giving out hand over fist products and goods to persons who couldn't get it in their homeland. And they're looking for a better way of life, right? And we are a party that believes in individual rights and taking care of people and freedoms and personal autonomy. So deny these people the ability to come get a better way of life is completely antithetical to what it is that we all espouse here in this room. To happen, I think we need to change the tax code. I think we need to make it so that if someone's coming into the system, they can pay into the system. It's asinine to think that you can come into the United States of America right now and you want to work, but you can't, and you can't legally. And so now you have persons that maybe on the other side of the aisle that say, damn, these people, they're taking what I want, what I've paid for. So if we made this whole system easier, people would be accepted. If we can make it so that person can come across the border and they can produce things, and they can be beneficial to our society. Absolutely. So I think we need to change. While we're going about saying that we need to open borders or close borders, we need to fix the system right now that's in place, which is primarily how we go about giving out social services, which need to be cut.
I don't know about you, but I'm tired of watching mothers and children crawl under barbed wire across rivers. I'm tired of families being separated and children being trafficked across our border. And the reason for this is the failed freaking drug war. We gave a monopoly to the cartels who are trafficking humans across our border. There's only one function of the Border Patrol, and that is to keep bad people out and let good people in. We need to end the chaos at the border. The chaos at the border is caused by the Democrats and the Republicans who don't want to do anything about it. Because they are using that to fundraise. They are using that to divide America. Why don't they offer actual freaking solutions? We need to end the welfare state so that we are not driving people to come and get free stuff. But we also need to allow the free movement of people so that we can have the workers that we need. I live in an area where there is a lot of migrant workers. I live in an area where there is a lot of high-tech workers. It's very difficult to get jobs because the freaking federal government is in the way. Let the market work.
I got one more thing. Okay.
We have 21 visas currently in order to get into the United States. We need to reduce this down to 3 very simple things. You want to be a visitor, you want to be a worker, or you want to be an immigrant. Let people come, and then let corporations back those people, find them jobs, get them working in America, and becoming productive members of society.
It's no secret that we have a humanitarian crisis regarding immigration. This crisis has been caused by several factors. First of all, the war on drugs. The war on drugs has led to immigrants bringing not only drugs into the country illegitimately in the sense that they are not labeled, they are not properly, the drugs are not properly given information as to what is in them and so forth. It's also caused by the foreign interventionism of the United States, which has displaced millions of people around the world. It's also caused by trade barriers, which have caused companies to move to not produce in those countries where those people live. People like their homes, generally. The problem is, we've had trade barriers that restrict production and make it difficult for people to get jobs where they live. And there's one more factor that has exacerbated this crisis, and that is the administration of social welfare to incoming immigrants. This is a fact that we must face. This has artificially incentivized people to immigrate. It has distorted the market, if you will, and I hate to talk in market terms and when people are involved, but nevertheless, it has distorted the market for immigration, unduly incentivizing people to come here. Like everything else in my campaign, I am for the privatization of immigration. Everything should be privatized. So I call for an invitation-based immigration system in which people are invited to come, and then those sponsors, they assume liability for those immigrants. This is not an illiberal process. This is not an illiberal plan, because it'll actually bring more immigrants into the country and give them a place to work, a place to live, and so forth. I don't like the bifurcation, the false dichotomy of open borders versus bordertarian. I think this is a mischaracterization. Nobody here is calling for shutting people out from the country. What we're saying is, what is the best way to bring it about? What is the best way to administer it? Privatize it. Everything should be privatized, including immigration. Thank you.
Sometimes I think as libertarians we forget that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We're up here today to try and govern a nation that deserves to have a sovereign nation. 12% of the population of the United States today can hardly put food on the table. The Federal Reserve is a giant counterfeiting machine that's stealing our wealth through a tax called inflation. A third of our federal budget is going to warfare in countries most of us couldn't point out on the map. And we're worried about everybody else in the world except for Americans. It's absolutely asinine to me. We've got to come up with a plan to take care of Americans first. I call myself the American First Libertarian. I know a lot of people might hear that and be upset about it, but it's the truth. Look, we're trying to govern a nation. We're trying to run for president. We have people out there that have fears. They're worried about how they're going to put food on the table. The middle class is disappearing at an expansive rate. It's getting insane to watch, to try and feed your children today. Our food bill has gone from $800 a month to almost $2,000 a month in the last 4 years. We are full. America's full. Listen, we've got to worry about Americans first. It's very important. If you want to be a sovereign nation, you cannot flood the borders. 1.7 million Nazis flooded the border of Poland. We had 6 million flood our border in Texas last year. It's time to change. Thank you.
That's some serious bullshit right there. The truth of the matter is that immigration is good for America. It's been good for America for over 300 years. America, but distinguishes us from other modern democracies around the world. It makes us stronger economically, it makes us stronger culturally, socially, and it even makes us stronger fiscally, as long as you don't do something stupid like pass out free money as people are coming across the border. You heard something that wasn't quite true a few minutes ago. You heard someone say that there's no one up here for a closed border to shut people out. That's not true. We've got a couple of guys right here with the idea of closing the border to future Americans, to Americans who just haven't checked in yet. We want a system whereby which people can get in here absolutely rapidly. We want people to get in here as quickly as possible. That means deploying the right technology to the border to make sure, as Chase said, that you don't have someone coming in with a felony warrant in some nation for doing something weird. Other than that, we should be welcoming people into the United States as rapidly as possible. This is what makes America great.
6 million last year wasn't rapidly enough?
We want people coming into the United States, building families, building our economy, bringing their entrepreneurial spirit. This is what sets us apart. It is true that I have been to the border where you guys have not been. I have seen human trafficking with my own 2 eyes. I know how dangerous it is. I know it needs to be shut down. That can be done with modern technology. But this idea of waiting for some American to invite people in order to be inside of the United States, we can't have it. I'm here to invite the entire nation of Cuba into my state.
You gonna have them in your living room too?
Okay, thank you. We're going to transition to foreign policy here. I assume everyone on this stage is against most foreign aid, but I want people to make a judgment call here. And so the question is the Israeli government an ally or an adversary to the American people? Not the American government, but to the American people. Let's start with Mike and come down.
This Mike? Yes. Super. The Israeli government is a sovereign nation that deserves to have an independent foreign policy, and so do we. We can no longer be linked to someone else's good ideas or bad ideas. We need to stop the idea of spreading foreign aid around the world and then expecting other people to do what it is that we want them to do. I predict by the end of 2024, not only will the American people make their voice clear that we recognize foreign aid to be a stupid idea, but I further predict that the nation of Israel will foster a government that makes the same damn decision, that it is no longer in their interest to maintain a relationship with Washington. Washington does a lot of stupid things, let's be honest. But at the top of that list is developing relationships around the world that try to impose on the American people treaties that we recognize do not align with our values. It does not align with your principles and values to send your children and your trillions of dollars to defend Europe against a Russian army that we should no longer fear the way that we did 30 years ago, just because our Western allies refuse to spend as much a proportion of their GDP on defense as we do. This is a stupid policy. It is a stupid policy for us to be fostering the war in Ukraine. We need to bring that to a close as quickly as possible. It is not in our interest to continue to send the signal around the world that we are prepared to go to war over microchips to maintain a relationship with China and Taiwan. This is completely stupid. And so the answer regarding Israel is the Israeli people are absolutely allies of ours, and their government needs to be independent from ours.
But is their government an ally of ours? That was the question.
Their government is independent of ours. The libertarian-minded administration would not put such a silly label on a government as being an ally or an adversary.
Is our government an ally of ours or an adversary?
Our government is an adversary.
Okay.
The Israeli government is neutral.
It's neutral, okay.
As long as the Israeli government doesn't try to tax my income, they can make their own decisions.
We're talking about the same Israeli government that propped up and funded Hamas so they could get support on a national stage. They are fucking dollars for war. That Israeli government, that's not my ally. I promise you that's not our ally. Look, I'm sick and tired of us sending our sons and daughters to die all over the world in places that most of the people could not point out on the map, and always comes back to Israel. This is a tripwire for war with Iran. Is that what we want? While we're pushing our fingers in the chest of Russia and China at the same time, we want to mess with Iran because of Israel, this same country that has propped up the terrorist group that everybody's mad about today? Absolutely no ally of ours. Simple.
Yeah, I mean, when this term ally is used with reference to certain nations, in this case Israel, it's always used really by those who have particular objectives, and those are neocon objectives. The Israeli government has not only extorted billions of dollars from American taxpayers to support its military exploits. It has killed thousands and thousands of people using our dime, using our money, using our arms. That is an outrage. It's a double violation of the non-aggression principle. We're being extorted to pay for it, and it's being used to murder people. That has got to stop. Furthermore, the state of Israel is using its proxies in the United States to control various members of our Congress and Senate. That is something that also has to stop. AIPAC should be declared a foreign agent. We need to have allies around the world, and that is not going to be accomplished through military exploit. We must have allies in free trade, cooperation, and peace. Thank you.
So you asked the question, is the government of Israel a friend to the American people? I posit to you that the government of Israel is not a friend to the Israeli people. Many of the people within Israel are crying out for peace. They're crying out for a ceasefire, and they know their government is a right-wing war machine. And I oppose it 100%. But are they an ally to the American people? No one who asks that our government sell them arms to go kill people overseas is an ally to us, because it exports our principles with bombs and bullets, and that creates blowback. And we know what that blowback creates. And so no, any government that takes our money to kill other people overseas is not an ally to the American people, because it's exporting our values with violence. And I oppose the war machine 100%. I am against war. And if you want a candidate that will fight the war machine, I'm your man.
So I don't believe in war. I never have. I've given my entire adult life to helping people. The idea of sending monies off to foreign countries, whether it's Israel, Ukraine, whether it's down to Korea, whether it's somewhere in Africa, if we're talking about Guatemala, this is abhorrent. This is something that none of us in this room should espouse. We don't like this. Can they be an ally? They can be an ally if we're not daddy warbucks, if we're not sending munitions. If somebody can't be a friend to us because we can't send them munitions and monies, then they weren't a friend to begin with. Now you also have to remember that this was not created by the United States, right? Post-World War I, all of this was chopped up in World War II by England, and then we suddenly recognized Israel, right? So these are problems that other countries have created, and now the United States people are funding it. And let's not forget, we're $35 trillion in debt. We cannot afford this across the world. We can't take care of our own people on any given day. Tuesday, when I go back to work, I'm going to have some old person that comes into my clinic that can't afford electricity, food, water, medicines. And that is just abhorrent. There's something wrong with this. Let's spin, spin, spin. Let's print money, print money, print money. And somehow the world loves us because we keep giving, giving, giving. It's time to stop this nonsense.
There was a big point mentioned earlier. If our federal government is not our ally, how can any other foreign country be our ally? I want to promote peace, and I want to stop funding war. Like these gentlemen said, we're $35 trillion in debt. We can't afford one more bomb to go overseas to be dropped on kids in faraway lands. We have to end the war machine. We have to stop the military-industrial complex. It is eating us alive. It is the largest lobby in Washington. It's got to go.
I oppose whether we could afford it.
I don't know about you, but I watch the news, and I watch the children dying across the country, or across the world, and it brings me to tears. I have children, and I see my children in those children's faces. I don't want us to bomb any more kids.
Okay, we'll do one more on foreign policy. This is on Ukraine. So just yesterday, the chief of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, advocated that NATO weapons should be used by Ukraine to strike Russian territory. So we could very soon be in a situation where our weapons are being used against Russian civilians in Russia. What does that mean if you guys are president? How do you end this war? How do you avoid World War III? Let's start with Chase.
Like I said, I'm anti-war to the core. That includes everywhere we expect to support the war machine. That includes Eastern Europe as well as Israel. And the first thing we have to do is remove ourselves from entangling alliances like NATO. That doesn't mean that we have abandoned everybody. We didn't have NATO when we fought World War II. We didn't have to have one, because when fascism comes to the door, the world war comes to your door, you fight it. But we don't have to say, hey, if a war comes to someone else's door, we need to immediately fight that war. We should not be bound by such a contract. And so yes, I support removing ourselves from NATO, removing ourselves from the war machine altogether. And if we want to have a response to Ukraine, say anybody who doesn't want to be conscripted to fight on any side of the war should be allowed to come to the United States with an asylum claim, because I oppose conscription, I oppose being forced to fight in a war if we don't want to, and that should be the only action we take to facilitate peace and respect our international neighbors.
Yeah, a little history of this region and our involvement in it is due. First of all, the United States, with the CIA and Nuland, orchestrated a coup, a Maiden coup, to replace the then Russian neutral president with a Russian hostile president. And then he kept exacerbating the tensions by threatening to include Ukraine in NATO. And this NATO has expanded since the end of the Cold War, which makes absolutely no sense. When the threat was diminished, it kept expanding eastward. Serving as a provocation. I'm not justifying anything that Russia did, but the United States' involvement has exacerbated this to no end. And now we're on the precipice of a full nuclear war. That's an outrage. We must end all funding and all arms to Ukraine. We must not have American bombs. We need to kill Russians or anybody else. It is time to withdraw. Foreign policy. It is not based on foreign interventionism. It's time to advocate peace in our foreign policy. Thank you.
Let's go over here. Good. Yeah.
I think we need to tell them, listen, if you guys are going to support invading Russia, using bombs to do so, we're out. Consider us out of NATO. I rarely agree with Mike twice in the same day, but I think he's correct in this regard. We made a promise back in the early 90s at the fall of USSR that we were not going to include Ukraine into the NATO, right? Now, consequently, Russia has invaded, so Ukraine are taking back some of the property. At the same time, post the fall of USSR, the whole idea of NATO growing doesn't make any sense. You know, the whole fall of USSR should have made this world safer. Yet somehow we continue to fight and fight and fight. So I think, like all things, businesses, etc., for free market, there needs to be a start, there needs to be an end. The idea that we have gotten into this promise that we will continue to fund and fund and fund without a seemingly end goal just doesn't make any sense. So we need to do everything we possibly can to take this needle and turn it to peace. We shouldn't be giving bombs to other countries. If someone's going to start throwing bombs into a territory of another sovereign nation, we need to be out of it. Say, listen, this is going to start World War III and we want no part of it. We love our children. We love our people. We can't afford it. It's not right. It's not morally correct.
We've heard the correct answer to this for 25 years in Congress from a great man called Dr. Ron Paul. And he said, free trade for all and entangling alliances with none. That's the absolute answer to this. We've got to pull out all funding from NATO. We've got to stop sending bombs and exporting death around the world. We've got to have a foreign policy that worries about Americans first. Period. Thank you.
Lars?
Do you remember
remember, some of you remember, when I was a kid, I had to do duck and cover drills because Russia was going to bomb us. And I had to hide under my desk when I was 6 or 7 years old. And I was terrified of Russian bombs killing all of America and the end of the world. And this fear was driven into me. And I was certain that this was going to happen all the way up to the day that the Berlin Wall fell. And why did the Berlin Wall fall? Did it fall because we had a tank? Did it fall because we had a gun pointed at them? No, it fell because of the free market. Because people want to be free. We cannot even police Detroit or San Francisco. How the hell are we supposed to be policing the rest of the world? Again, we're $35 trillion in debt. We cannot afford to be spreading military-industrial complex crap around the world. This has got to stop. This has got to stop. We can't afford it anymore. I'm always on the side of less death. We cannot get peace in the world. We cannot be the protectors and projectors of peace in the world if we're tied into every country on earth bombing the crap out of them. We spent 20 years replacing the Taliban with the Taliban. Our government sucks at foreign policy. We need to get the government out of foreign policy and start promoting peace around the world.
Mike, last answer.
I'm not Lars this time, am I? I get to play myself. Look, NATO has to go. That's the bottom line. NATO was a mediocre idea 50 years ago. It was a bad idea 25 years ago. And today it represents a death machine. The reason there is a war in Ukraine today, and I'm sorry to have to break the bad news to anyone whose feelings are going to get hurt. The reason there is a war in Ukraine today is because of NATO. That's the truth of the matter. It's not a matter of just the United States pulling out. Absolutely, the United States needs to stop funding NATO, but we need to stop being a member of NATO. If the European alliance decides they need to stand up to the Russian army in some weird way, notwithstanding what we've all learned about the Russian army over the last couple of years, then they can knock themselves out. They can start spending the money that they believe that they need to fund themselves. But count us out. The reason NATO is such an important question is because this election is not going to be about small ideas. It's not going to be about reform. It's going to be about big ideas. It's going to be about changing the way that our government works, the way that we present ourselves to the world. We need to present to the world a foreign policy that reflects our values, not the values of a war machine. And our values are those of peace and prosperity. Let there be absolutely no mistake. There is no such thing as prosperity in any other fashion than through peace. You have been told by neocons, for 50 years that it's all about prosperity because of pushing the idea of war. The idea that we would become more wealthy if we were militarily stronger. And this has been encapsulated by that stupid phrase, peace through strength. And the truth of the matter is, that's just not how it works. Whether your values and ethics align with mine or not, I'm here to break the news to you. Strength comes from peace, not the other way around.
Okay, we're going to transition to a COVID question. Everyone on this stage obviously is against lockdowns, is against vaccine mandates. So, sorry, a COVID question. So, to make it more interesting, I'm going to phrase it, were the vaccines safe and effective? Would you abolish the FDA, NIH, and CDC? Let's go to Michael first.
as we were told, the vaccines were supposedly safe and effective, safe and effective. They repeated this all over the news. This was total propaganda. The whole COVID regime was a propaganda war against the American people. During this crisis and before it, I saw through the propaganda myself. I spoke around the country, detailing and arguing against the COVID totalitarianism under which we suffered. And this was a time of unprecedented propaganda, lies, and chicanery. There was nothing safe about it, there was nothing effective about it, and it was a total disaster. Trump for rolling it out is utterly condemned and earned our complete enmity. So, no, the COVID vaccines were not safe and effective. They were an utter disaster. And I should say that I saw this in the beginning. I spoke and wrote about it all over the place. You can read it on the Mises Institute site. You can read it on my website. I've been in front of this from the very beginning. If the candidates did not see through the COVID propaganda, or if they enforce the COVID mandate, then they do not deserve to be the leader of the Libertarian Party.
That's true, we vote for Trump.
So Michael, I'm assuming you would also abolish FDA, CDC, NIH.
FDA, all of them.
Okay.
All together. The entire regulatory regime must go.
Okay, we'll go to Chase.
So we already had the alphabet agency question. Of course, we want to eliminate these agencies that create horrible, horrible violence and basically export government medicine. And let me tell you right now, I don't trust government medicine. I don't trust the FDA to test the safety and efficacy of drugs. I think that the private market could actually do that a lot better and actually inform consumers about what they're putting in their body, not through government propaganda, but through transparency and actual science, and not government science. I would absolutely get rid of the NIH, the FDA, the CDC. These are agencies we do not need in our government controlling our lives. We can have independent individuals deciding what they want to do with their body, what medicine they want to take, what doctor they want to visit, and how they run their lives. What we don't need is a government that is so over-intrusive that they tell you you must take a drug to be essential in your life. That is bullshit. I am a grandson of a trucker. Let me tell you right now, there are truckers all over this country that were hailed as heroes until the vaccine came out, and they said, I don't want to take the vaccine, and all of a sudden they became the villain. They brought those goods to your store. They brought the toilet paper you were missing to your Walmart. They really are the heroes, but they were demonized by a government. So no, I will not support the COVID regime. No, I will not support the government telling you what to do with your life. The last person you need telling you what to do with your health care is a government agent or a government doctor. Pick your own health care, choose what you want to do with your own bodily autonomy, whatever the hell you want, and safe and effective. I think everybody, even if they got the vaccine, got freaking COVID, so how effective is that?
Okay, Charles.
So my take, I've always said it's your body and it's your choice, and I say that every single day of my life. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Lay it back, please. Please. Now, my take on things are a little bit different, perhaps than many people in this room, but not all people in this room, because I just met a gentleman who was an ER doctor who probably had similar circumstances. So I come from South Louisiana. The largest portion of my population that I treat are persons of color. And there are disparities amongst persons based upon race, right? So I saw many of friends and many of persons that I would consider people that I liked in life that died as a consequence of this, right? So yeah, I did. I got on stage because I've been fighting my whole damn life to try to do well. And guess what? You know what? When I was either too dumb or too stupid. When this came in, I was the guy that was putting the airways in people because I chose to be someone to take care of people. And I'm going to stand by that. I don't think the government had any right to come in and tell you to give you a vaccine. Not no, but hell no. I'll say it on TV. Hell no. The government shouldn't do it. In our state, guess what happened? They almost destroyed our culture. We locked people down. We didn't have Mardi Gras. We couldn't have Jazz Fest. We didn't have all the things that makes New Orleans a social society. We didn't see our friends. We'd go home at the end of the day, take our damn clothes off and throw them in the washing machine, go take a shower, and then sit down and watch a Zoom call, or write a book, or do something. And that's something that's wrong. So if you say that I think that somehow we all need to get a jab, the answer is hell no. But to sit up here and argue the efficacy of a vaccine is asinine, because not many people on the stage are actually scientists. Yeah, well, don't believe me then. But the bottom line is, I, as a physician, try to take care of people. And I will go back to my home this coming week, and I will do it.
This man was sent here by Pfizer. Guaranteed. Zero guarantee was sent here by Pfizer.
Right. So there you go. So my stance on this is it's your body and it's your choice. I say this every day of my life when I'm taking care of patients. And I believe in taking care of the American people. I've done it for years and years and years, and I have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of patients that will attest to that.
Okay, but so as a doctor, in your view, was it safe and effective?
We saw, so when the first wave of COVID came down, it actually helped cut down hospitalizations. After that, it became ineffective once the virus went through society. Look, I'm not advocating you go take a vaccine. That is entirely not the case.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Josh.
Well, I don't know. Does safe mean heart problems for toddlers? No! Does efficient mean after your fourth booster you can still contract the virus? No! Listen, I don't only want these agencies abolished, okay? I want these people that ran this scam on us for 4 years, the greatest tyranny of our lifetimes, in jail! Fauci, the heads of Pfizer and Moderna, Trump, Biden, everyone. Never again. We will never give up our rights again. Not once. Thank you.
It's 2024. How many years does it take to learn these lessons? And where were you in 2019 and 2020? I have to admit, I'm a little bit offended by someone who says you were taking care of the American people. I'm sorry. I was out there in 2020 actually taking care of the American people. I was the one out there battling against Broward County, battling against Palm Beach County, battling against the city that I was employed by, effectively nullifying what it was that the governor wanted us to do. I'm the one that stood up against economic shutdowns. I'm the one that stood up against social shutdowns. I'm the one that was running a congressional campaign. You all know that stupid photograph on my website of me standing there in that ugly ass yellow shirt? The reason it's there is because I'm standing on top of concrete, leading marches, leading chants, leading protests against the shutdowns, against the mandates, against the stupid masking rules. Where were you in 2020? I've got a problem saying that you were helping the American people. I was out there doing the hard work, and I know some of these other guys were too. Bless your damn hearts. We need to learn the lessons right away and be able to apply those to the future. If you believe that you cannot say in 2024 that those vaccines were ineffective, I'm sorry, you either can't read data or you can't read the room. The truth of the matter is, that for huge portions of our population, the side effects killed more people than the vaccine saved. That is the unfortunate truth. Nobody wants to say that out loud, but at some point you have to admit it. The truth is that what the government did to us, they operated in the shadows because they knew they were not operating in your interest. This is a lesson that we need to apply going forward and for the rest of our lives.
Okay, we'll go to Lars unless Charles, if you want to respond.
Sure. I mean, I've said it all along, and I say it again, and I'll say it next week, and the following week, and for the rest of our life. It's your body, and it's your choice. As a physician, it's your overall ability to influence patients' decisions is very, very huge. The idea of telling someone exactly what it is you have to do is not my place. nor definitely is not the government. I think it was complete overreach. I mean, we can't even stop daylight savings time, yet somehow we're going to stop government policies that really affect people's lives. Do I think taking kids out of school, etc., were good? Absolutely not. You're going to see harm for years and years and years. These policies were made, I go back to this, I'm a states guy. These policies were made by in this town, right? So you say, hey, look, we're going to put all these kids at home and they can't go off to school. Now they have to wear a mask, and all these kids now aren't socialized. Most family can't go out there and buy themselves a laptop or a tablet or have their child with a desk or have 3 square meals. And so the people in Washington say, you got to stay home. So what do these kids do? They go home, they don't get educated, they're not socialized, and they've lost years and years and years of their life. And there's something that's bad about that. We're not just talking about adults getting a jab. We're talking about a damn society that's been ruined to some effect for a few years, consequent to government decisions that are made here in Washington.
Michael Rectenwald is right about this. It's not enough to recognize in 2024. You have to have been there in 2020. You have to have been on the ground in 2020. Talking about the fact that government has the right to oppose the policies. It doesn't matter whether they're right or wrong 4 years ago. They never had the right to impose them on us in the first place.
I watch a lot of business news. I get most of my news from business. I don't watch TV at all. But I was listening about how China had a new virus going around and that they were locking their citizens in their homes and welding the doors shut. And I remember thinking to myself, thank God I live in America where that would never happen. A month later, I live in California. Gavin Newsom is locking everybody down. He's putting barbed wire across the freaking beaches. He's locking people up for watching the sunset.
Newsom for jail too.
Newsom for jail. What I saw Donald Trump completely out of his league, and he completely embraced the swamp creature, Fauci. He listened to all the health agencies, and he didn't have a mind of his own. And he turned COVID into a political football, and he was having daily talk shows while Cuomo was on the other side telling you the Democrat side, and they were battling back and forth instead of letting people make informed decisions for themselves. And then they rolled out Operation Warp Speed. They gave a free pass to all the pharmaceutical companies and gave them qualified immunity. We need to end qualified immunity not only for police, but for the freaking pharmaceutical companies. If you do harm to people, you should pay the price. For me, it should have been information. The government should have given you all the information to make your own informed choice, so that you could do what you needed to do for your family, not force you to do with government authoritarianism. And that is what my campaign is all about, is allowing you, the individual, to have your own choice and not let the government tell you how to live your life, what to put in your body, what you can smoke, what you can do in your own home. The government has no business in any of that.
Okay. We're going to go to Q&A. This is the last question. Make it quick. We started with your least favorite founding father. Now let's talk about your favorite founding father. Let's start with Mike and come down.
Wow. I have to admit, I have a fondness in my heart for any guy who walks away from the idea he could have had more power. And that's why I revere the idea, no, not Paul Revere, I revere the idea of George Washington having walked away when he could have had a third term, he could have had a fourth term. What a lot of people don't remember about those times that I do is that George Washington was so much the obvious choice they almost didn't even have an election. That's a weird thing. He was so obvious a choice, he didn't need to run for re-election. He could still be president today. And he walked away for the good of the nation. That's what we need. We need a libertarian-minded administration who will leave you the hell alone.
I'm quite fond of a few of the founding fathers, but I'd have to say Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. Sick of living in America that's less free by the day, and we need to remember that quote by our great founding fathers and start to relinquish some of the power from the federal government. Thank you.
He wasn't exactly a founding father, but he was a major figure in the American Revolution as Thomas Paine. Incidentally, I share a birthday with Thomas Paine. Also, incidentally, I grew up in the same town as Ron Paul, Pittsburgh. So let's make it clear where I'm coming from. But I would say my favorite founding father is Thomas Jefferson. He was the most radical among them. And I think he was writing and arguing for the best case of what this country could be. Thank you very much.
So I do want to start to say Patrick Henry was a Federalist, my anti-Federalist friend, so maybe don't be such a big fan of his. But my choice is Thomas Jefferson. I agree. Thomas Jefferson was a radical individualist. He wanted to evolve government away from central governance, and he was a great founding father. But I think we need to remember this. The dude is not worshipable. None of the founding fathers are perfect. The guy owned slaves, so how religious was he? We need to have respect for the ideals of these founding fathers' names, but actually perfect that by fighting for real freedom and not 17th century freedom or holding that up to some sort of ideal that that's the prime thing we need. We need to be forward to the next generation of liberty, and that's what I'm fighting for, is that we need to be freer tomorrow than we were today. And that's an issue we can fight for together.
I agree with everyone, but I would agree with Thomas Jefferson. This gentleman knew to protect against future tyranny. A genius. He believed in states' rights. He knew this is why we have the 10th in the Bill of Rights. He realized that our federal government could grow too large and omnipotent. And he had the foresight to look all the way out to 2024 to say, wait a minute, this is just too big. And it's fascinating to think how genius these individuals were to protect from tyranny. I believe in a smaller government. I believe that things government-wise can be more manageable if they're brought into a smaller level. I've had the good fortune of traveling quite a bit, and it really is nice when you realize that you go from a country to a country or to a state to a state and meet different people that have different values, and you may not necessarily agree or align with these values, but a person should be able to live as they see fit. This is the whole premise behind libertarianism, is personal autonomy and the ability of us to make our own bad decisions. And if the state wants to do so, they have the right to do so. So I would agree with him because I am a states' right guy through and through.
How many of you have seen some of my memes on the internet? A lot of people. One of my best memes that I ever put, and it's not really a meme, it was a quote. And it was a quote by Thomas Paine, and it got something like 6 million views on Facebook. I love Thomas Paine quotes. I couldn't find the one that got me 6 million views, but this one popped up and I thought I would share it with you. The duty of a true patriot is to protect his country from his government.
Okay, great. All right, let's go to audience Q&A. This gentleman here has been standing for a very long time by the number 3. What is your question? We got to turn the mic on. Sorry? Oh, okay. Who's here for the Q&A? Maybe there's, okay, here we have one.
Hi there, James Repass, delegate from Virginia. My question for all of you is, everybody evolves over the course of their campaigns. What have you changed the most on over the course of your campaign, if anything at all? Thank you.
I want to start with Lars.
Yeah. So when I first started running, I knew that the system was sort of rigged, but I thought it was mostly our election system was rigged. And I knew that I couldn't just run on an unrigged election system because that's not super sexy to regular Americans. But as I was talking policy with my team, with Larry Sharp, with Michael White, with TJ Ferreira, with Tyler Harris, I was talking with my team, with Dan Johnson, and we were talking through all these policies, and every time we talked about a policy, we said the system is rigged. And I realized that everybody in America has been affected by government in a negative way, and that we have to unrig the system, we have to unrig the criminal justice system, we have to unrig our education system, we have to unrig the healthcare system, we have to unrig our freaking economy, and we have to unrig the goddamn voting system.
So how have you changed over the course of your campaign? Biggest change?
Absolutely. I don't think my political values have, and I got into this race late, I got into this just because I was viscerally upset watching the news cycles. I said, you know what, a person can make a change. And so I threw myself into this race. I have a great team. My wife is fantastic. Second to none, in my opinion. Clap for that. But I think what I've come to realize is most of these processes are entirely unfair. I mean, you know, I thought that prior going into this, but now I've really I understand it wholeheartedly that you know, all of us unknowns out there are truly not, you know, not worthy of large press and media, etc. There's something wrong with this. I mean, the whole idea of the First Amendment, you know, you would think the news media would be to protect America, to actually make this place better, to try to bring up issues that we all need to talk about without creating so much rhetoric. They have the power to change the populace. They have the ideas. I mean, the rhetoric that we have is asinine. We basically look at two parties, a uniparty now, right? The ideas are, they pit one side against the other, but ultimately policy doesn't change. So I think I've changed drastically in this race from thinking and realizing how unfair the whole system is.
So I started running for president right after I ran for U.S. Senate in the state of Georgia and forced him off the Raphael That race taught me a lot of lessons. First off, it taught me how to be a campaign that can fight with limited funds and with an outfunded opponent. $20,000, I fought against a $250 million machine, and I forced that one off at 26 cents per vote. So that's one of the values that I took into this campaign. But I took, how can we use limited resources to punch above our weight in a presidential campaign? Well, I'm so happy that I have a professionalized comms and media and messaging team that can get our message out through utilizing 21st century technology that allows us to target our direct voters and bring them out for a fraction of the cost, using geofencing and other technology to be able to direct target ad. We did this in the state of Virginia. We did this after their convention, and I had, within a day, 3 different delegates asking me how the hell did a Chase Oliver for President ad come on their Hulu when they were watching TV that night. And we did it with a fraction of the cost, of a few $100s. So we learned as a campaign how to utilize limited resources and push it out there. And with, you know, and it's not that we have limited resources, we raise more money than anybody from donors just like yourselves. But we've used every single dollar the wisest way possible. And as a candidate that has professionalized my messaging, because I have an amazing team behind me that's helping. When I ran for Senate, it was pretty much a one-guy job with a very limited core group of supporters, and I knocked on 3,000 doors myself. But with the 500 volunteers we already have and growing, we're going to be able to knock on millions of doors as a campaign when we win this nomination. And I look forward to doing this so we can win the next generation of this party. Because most of us became libertarians between the age of 18 and 29, and we've identified that as the population that our campaign is going to target. Winning the next generation for liberty, just like all of you got to this party when you were between the ages of 18 and 29, most of you. That's what we're going to do for these kids out there. We're going to break them out of the spell of statism. We're going to wake them up, and we're going to bring millions and millions of people to the tent and say, welcome home to liberty.
Thank you. So we're running low on time, so let's do the second question to these three from you.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Aaron Adams. I'm a delegate from Oklahoma and a long-time campaign worker. I've ran Libertarian Voters Campaign since 2012 for our selected candidates. And I think it's easy for candidates to speak a libertarian message because we're all libertarians, right? But what I want to ask you about, because I've worked under some really shoddy-ass campaigns, is scale and scope. I want to know about your professional staff. I want to know about your professional strategy. I want to know how you're going to reach voters who have never heard the term libertarian. And please don't tell me bottom-up grassroots activism, because we've been spinning our wheels for 50 years on that. So please give me an answer that is valuable.
Yeah, we'll start with Michael. Thank you. So, I have the greatest name recognition beyond the Libertarian Party. I've had appearances on all the major media, and I have the longest documented record in truth-telling, and I am the only candidate with a strategy to bring liberty to the American people. That's decentralization and nullification. And we have a strategy for the campaign. We will work on recruitment. We have a college tour set up in which I will be speaking to college students across the country and talking to them about liberty and libertarianism and the ideas that motivate our party. I have the biggest opportunity to bring more libertarians and more people into the Libertarian Party than all the other candidates. No question about it. I've been on all these formats. I have the most exposure to media, and I will have the boldest message. A message that will wake people up, not put them to sleep. Time to wreck the regime!
I'm just going to take this time to build on my staff. I have one of the greatest staffs I've ever worked with on any campaign. Look, when we started this campaign, we didn't know which direction we were going to go. I didn't know if we were going to run it seriously. We did, because of my great staff. Because I have people that work with me every day. I said, what are you good at? They said what they're good at, they went and did it. It was the most organic thing I've ever seen for a campaign, and it's worked out very well for us. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for all that you've done for us. I could just go on and on and on about that, but I'm sure you will. But look, this is a media tour, okay? The presidential candidate needs to get out there and get on every single media channel they possibly can, whether it's small, big, mainstream, it doesn't matter. We already have the connections. We're already working on some of the biggest alternative media platforms in the country. Look, Tim Pool gets 2 times the daily viewers that CNN gets every day. Joe Rogan gets 7 times the viewership that CNN gets every day. We don't need the mainstream media anymore. It's gone. Over. You're dying. Over. We're going to go around and we're going to get on all the alternative media platforms. We're going to tell the Americans there's a better choice. There's a better option. You don't have to pick between Donald Trump and Biden. You have somebody who will start to make the middle class prosperous today. Thank you.
Josh got it all right, except I'm not actually going to prattle on for 15 minutes praising his staff. Look, you all know that the big differentiating factor in this campaign is our strategy. The reason I got into this is because I knew that I could help push this process in the direction that I wanted it to go. I'm not going to talk to you about the fact that I'm the only guy up here with any professional experience in public service. I'm not going to talk to you about the fact that I'm the only guy up here with any experience in public policy at all. What I'm going to tell you is that each one of these guys, for reasons unique to each of them, is absolutely terrific. And when I go on the road representing you, the Libertarian Party, the weirdos out there who voted for me to be on this stage, and I thank you, I will hear people say, hey, I'm a Democratic politician, aren't I just like you guys? I'm anti-war. I'll say no. I know peace activists. Peace activists are friends of mine, and you people are no Chase Oliver. And I'm going to repeat a Republican out there who says, hey, I'm anti-woke. Aren't I just like a libertarian? And I'll say no. I know a guy who has written some of the best prose in the American canon against wokeism. He is a friend of mine, and you, sir, are no Michael Rectenwald. I will hear people out there say, hey, I stand up for a new way to conduct our votes and to stand up for voter integrity. I'll say, no, you are not like a libertarian. I know a guy who has written all about the voter Bill of Rights. He is a friend of mine, and you, sir, are no Lars Matstick. I will meet a guy out there who says, hey, I want to reform our welfare system. Doesn't that make me just like a libertarian? And I'll say no. I know a guy who campaigns on ending our welfare system because it corrupts our culture and it breaks up our families. He is a friend of mine, and you, sir, are no Joshua Smith. And one more thing, I apologize for running on. The rumor is true that the Kennedy campaign has reached out to my campaign not once but twice, and we have told them to go away. And they keep coming back, and they say, oh, but he's so charming, he's so good looking, don't you want to spend the rest of your life with him? I'm sorry, I married good looking, I married charming, and you, sir, are no Nancy Termott.
Okay, I'm told we got to wrap soon, but this guy in the Scottish kilt here has a question that he says is very short.
Aren't you the guy that chased that dude out of the hallway yesterday?
Well, I just now. Alright, so it's a short question, a short answer, but a little preface there. So let's say it's Wednesday in November, right? You just won the presidency, right? Whichever one of you is answering. Imagine yourself there. You wake up that morning, it's probably like, 10, maybe 11 a.m., if you're lucky. What do you order for breakfast? It's a very important question. And you're laughing, but think about it. It's the most important thing of the day. So what do you order for breakfast?
Okay, let's keep that quick. Go to the line. What do you have for breakfast at 10 or 11 a.m.? Yeah, who wants to answer that one?
Yeah, if I'm having breakfast at 11 a.m., I better have a couple of mimosas.
Okay, we'll move on. We'll do brief closing statements and then we will wrap. Let's start with Lars.
I want to ask you all a question.
Question.
Are there any real libertarians in the House? I want to let you the opportunity right now to send a message over this television stations that are watching us. Do we reject Donald Trump and everything he stands for? Do we reject Joe Biden and everything he stands for? Do we reject Robert Kennedy Jr. and everything he stands for? You're all real libertarians. Together we can break this cycle. Together we can stop Joe Biden and Donald Trump from taking office in November. I can do this. We have to stop 270. We can deny them the election and send it to the House of Representatives, where the Congress will pick who will be the next president of the United States. And while we're doing this, we're going to get national attention for the Libertarian Party like nothing has ever been seen before. It is working already. I have been in 18 national polls. Donald Trump is polling me in his internal polling because he is afraid of the Stop 270 plan. He is afraid of my campaign and the organization that I have put forth. We are going to give a giant middle finger to the duopoly this election. The government has completely failed me at every turn. They failed my children with their public education system that is a complete failure, and we have to abolish the Department of Education. We have to end the 50-year failed war on drugs that has created more drug users and addicts than ever before, leaving people on the street to die. We have to get rid of the cap IRS as an audited me multiple times and almost made me a criminal for nothing. We have to end federal government overreach, and we have to get real change. And what we can do with that, I have the experience, I have the money. I put $1 million of my own money into this campaign. I'm pledging $1 more $1 million of my money into the general election. I'm starting out with a giant war chest. I have the team and the expertise and the plan to actually make this happen. If you don't want to get under 1%, vote for me, because all these gentlemen here are going to get less than 0.5% when the general election happens. We need a plan to actually make this happen. I have it. Vote for me tomorrow.
Okay. Let's go to Mike for the second one. Try to keep it short because we're running out of time.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that. By the way, I don't know how much time I have, but what time I do have, I owe to you people. These minutes are yours, and I appreciate the vote that you took yesterday. I am not going to waste your time by telling you anything other than the absolute damn truth. There's one thing that needs to be said that we haven't talked about today. And that starts with a story about a phone call that this guy made to me last week. And he said, this is a stupid way to choose who's going to be up on that debate stage. It's not about money, it's about who can cram the most money in the last 40 seconds, right? By the way, good on you.
Thank you.
Who can cram it? I said, well, that won't be a problem. There's nobody better than me at cramming money online into the last 40 seconds. I happen to be, that's in my wheelhouse, so I don't know who that sorry son of a bitch is going to be in 6th place. But you're right, we should vote him onto the stage because he's that libertarian. And he called Lars's team, and Lars said, hell yes, we're voting whoever that sorry son of a bitch is in 6th place onto the debate stage, because he is that libertarian. And I spoke to Michael Rechtenwald, and I pitched the same idea, Josh's idea, and Rechtenwald said, hell yes, because Michael is that libertarian. And Josh called Steve Dossbach, who was immediately on board with the idea. He calls you, you agree because you're that libertarian. And the reason I'm up here, and the reason we're going to take this campaign a lot further than 2 congressional districts or 0.5%,
All 50 states, buddy.
is because you people are that libertarian.
Okay, Charles, quick one.
Now, I got into this race late. A lot of people say, why the hell are you here? That's right, Lou. But what you don't realize is I truly am a middle-class guy, and I've worked for every last thing in my life. My family taught me that education and hard work would actually get me to places, and I've never given up in my entire life. In my entire life, people have said, you can't do it, and you can't do it, you can't do it. Damn if I haven't proved them wrong pretty much every time, right? I like these guys on stage. You guys have a very, very difficult choice. We've grown up, I mean, across this country over the past few months. A lot of people's ideas have changed. You know, I got into this party because I believe in it. Right? I like Jacob. Where the hell's Art Olivier? Where the hell's Toad? The more voices you guys get to hear, the better this is. I mean, I got into this party because I wanted to make a difference in this world. And I'm tired of being thrust down of having a 2-party system. And there's just something wrong. I'd say God bless everybody running, at least listen to them. You may not agree with them, but this electoral process needs to change. Right now, if you go out to the polls, very few people show up to vote. What the hell is wrong with this country? We promote liberty across the whole world. Hey, everybody needs to be like us. Our people don't even show up at the polls to vote for who it is that they get the opportunity to do so. So I got into this race for the right reasons, and I'll stand by that. I want to change this world. I want to change this country for the better. I want the American dream to be reasonable again so that you can achieve it. Right now, the CDP, you're getting at 8% over the past 2 years. You can't afford anything right now. I mean, where is this world going right now? Where is our country headed? In a few years, we're going to be like Venezuela. Wake up! So I would say that this Libertarian Party has a monumental opportunity this fall. The public is willing to listen, and we cannot let another third party like RFK take the wind out of our sail. So everybody needs to be challenged in this room. When you go home, call friends, call colleagues, look at the websites, look at whoever's nominated, and make that person make a difference this fall.
Mr. Boy, hopefully we're more like Argentina than Venezuela. Let's go.
Josh, you're up.
Look, the one question I've got to ask. Shoot, where's that? Stop it. The one question I've got to ask the most on this campaign is why? Why are you doing that? You're a father of 7 children. You're a blue-collar, working-class, middle-class guy who gets up every morning and puts on work boots like everybody else in America. Why would you do that? I always go back to the same thing. Because I have a dream. I dream that my children will live in a country where they're free to buy a home without paying a lifetime penance to a government who didn't help them buy or maintain it. I dream my children will live in a country where they aren't extorted for their wealth by a huge counterfeiting machine to prop up a never-ending warfare state. I too have a dream that my children will live in a country with a federal government who doesn't pay states $1 for every 88 cents they spend to separate families, forcing children into single-parent homes. I dream that my children will live in a free country, a country free of mental health care system that pushes children towards trendy, anti-science medications and mutilating surgeries. I dream that my children will be free to educate my grandchildren however they see fit without a federal government forcing them to standardize education. I dream of a world where my children won't be arrested and thrown into a violent rape cage for the crime of exercising their God-given rights to self-defense by unconstitutional alphabet agencies. Listen up, this one's very important. I dream that my kids can be free to start an e-commerce website without the fear of being handed 2 life sentences in a federal prison because they weren't paying their protection fee. Free and quick! Mostly I'm just dreaming that my kids can have more freedom that we all grew up with. I don't have the luxury of the black pill because that means giving up on my children, my grandchildren, and the future existence of our nation. Libertarians are the future which helps our children thrive and prosper. We can win, we are winning, we will win. Enough already, vote for vengeance.
I'm going to keep myself to a tight 2 minutes because I know we got a lot of business to do, but I'm kind of, I think it's ironic that we're here in Washington, D.C., the belly of the statist beast. But here's the truth. My political journey really got started in Washington, D.C. because that was the first place that I got tear gassed by my own government for opposing the war machine way back in the 2000s. And ever since then, I've been fighting against the war machine both at home and abroad. And years later, I got wandered into a tent at a festival and waved into the tent by a libertarian by the name of John Bonds, who's running for governor in the state of Florida. And he told me that this is the party for you, that a party that supports your right to live as you see fit, without violence, so long as you're not committing violence against other people. And that sounded very attractive to me. It wanted me in the tent, but it made me find my political home. Ladies and gentlemen, there are millions of American voters right now who are dissatisfied with the broken two-party system, who see the Trumps, the Bidens, and yes, even the warmed-over Democrat RFKs of the world, and see failure, they see continued lowering of expectations, and we need to provide them a better vision. Young people, particularly in this country, Gen Zers, need to know that they can be snapped out of the statist indoctrination with a real, hardcore liberty message. And that's what I've done as I travel across all 50 states as the first libertarian candidate for president to ever campaign in all 50 states, because we're a 50-state party, and every single state deserves to have libertarian messaging and a powerful libertarian campaign in their neighborhood. We are going to wake up millions of people, bring them in the tent, and say that if you're living your life in peace, without fear, or without violence, force, fraud, coercion, or theft, your life is your life, your body is your body, your business is your business, and your property is your property. It's not mine, and it sure as hell is not the federal government's. I urge the libertarians in this room to join this campaign, to join the hundreds of volunteers as we travel again across all 50 states to spread a message loud and clear that statism is on the decline, freedom is on the rise, and we will wake this country up and free the world in our lifetime. Thank you very much for having us on this debate. I look forward to meeting all of you individually, and if you have questions, don't hesitate to come up. I'll be out right outside that hallway ready to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Recton Wald will give us the final closing statement here.
I'm going to make this very brief. I'm calling on all those who demand dangerous liberty over safe tyranny to nominate and run with me. It's time to wreck the regime!
Okay, that is it. Thanks everyone for watching. We're going to move on to the procedures now. Thank you.